Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well. My name is Josh Elbow. In the video today, I want to answer a question that I got from Harrison, who used to be in my mentorship group on Facebook. Thank you for watching the video today. Just a reminder, if you ever have any questions that are business, finance, or personal related that you think I can help with, feel free to reach out. I'm very simple to get a hold of. You can DM me on Instagram at @TheJoshElbow. You can leave a comment on the YouTube channel, find me on Facebook, email me at summitsme@gmail.com, and I'll do whatever I can to get that answered for you. The question today was, Harrison reached out and he was telling me that he's going back to school in a little bit. He's going to be paying $23,000 a year to go for school, and he's got about $15,000 saved up, I want to say. And he said his question was, where would I invest it for the next couple of years? What would be a good place to park it? As well as what books would I read? So my recommendation, we'll start with the books, then we'll get into the investment side. The books I would read, I got 3. One's called The Wall Street Journal, Complete Personal Finance Guidebook. This goes over, I think everyone needs to read this. I was talking to my buddy Carl one time. I think everybody needs to read this just because it goes through the basics of like when it comes to investing, whether it's loans long-term, car financing, interest rates. It goes over all of the principles that you'll need. It's like a very, very simple personal finance book. When it comes to investing in the stock market, I would recommend, this is the best book I've read probably on the stock market by far. It's called Peter Lynch, Beating the Street. Peter Lynch was the manager of Fidelity's Magellan Fund in the 80s, 90s, I want to say. I think it was 90s or 2000s. But doubled the market return, averaged like a 21% return annually, which is unheard of. But this one gave me some really good insight. There's two other investment books actually. One's called The Investment Club. I forget the author. I read that one time. That one talked about the different resources you have if you want to invest in the stock market, whether it's a networking group or what type of stocks you want to put it or how to do your research. That one's more tactical. And the last one that you might not think of it as an investment book, but it made a lot of sense. And from a return on investment and a compounding interest standpoint, this will make your highest return long term. It's by the Motley Fool, I believe, and it's called The Only Investment Guide You'll Ever Need. I mean, they talk about investment stuff, but they also talk about the opposite side of that. So if you have credit card debt that you're paying 24% interest on, you're going to get a higher return on paying that down versus trying to invest it in something for a higher return than 24%. Because finding something with a 24% return, unless you're flipping stuff, which is, again, speculation, let's call it, not investing, you're better off. Let's say you got $10,000 in credit card debt, you got $15,000 cash. Take the 10, pay off the credit card debt at that high interest rate, and then use the 5. You can still leverage the 5, but at a lower interest rate. Same thing with gambling. They talk about how the average, long term, you're guaranteed to take. The longer you stay in the casino, obviously, the more money you lose, but long term, you're guaranteed to lose money gambling. So it's a guaranteed negative interest rate. It's about the other worst thing you can do, aside from having credit card interest. So that one was good. And they talked about couponing and stuff, but it wasn't like, oh, you need to be doing this. But from a return on investment for every dollar that you spend, that book was really good to think of things like when you can buy certain things in bulk. If you can get 50% off an item that you purchase a lot, that's a real return. That's a real dollar return in the products that you're going to be using anyway versus spending double. So they talk about that. So those are the 4 books I would recommend. As for you personally, I'm going to presume that you're taking out a student loan, maybe unsubsidized or subsidized, whichever one you don't have to pay interest on yet until you graduate, or 6 months after you graduate. On the $23,000 a year, that's only going to be 3 to 4% interest. So I would literally, in my opinion, unless that affects your credit, I would hold off on paying that one back just because the interest rate's going to be 3% for forever. And I think annually you can get a better rate of return than 3%. Ironically, this video is being made at the beginning of about 2 weeks into the China-America trade war bullshit. And everything's down 5 to 10% right now. There's some things that are down 30%. So you could potentially throw it in a index fund or for the long term, or also throw it into a leveraged index fund for the extremely long term. The reason I let's say SSO, which is a ticker, for the S&P 500 index. The reason I like the leverage index fund more is because if I'm investing for the long term, if I'm investing in that for the next 60 years, the average return of the stock market is 8 to 12%. So triple that, the average return will be 16%. So long term, as it goes up, I'm going to get 3% return. Even if it goes down 5%, then it goes down 15% for me. So there's higher risk short term if you need that cash liquid. So don't spend money. Don't be investing money that you don't have, especially if you don't know what the heck you're doing with something like indexing. But let's say you're taking 5 to 10% of everything you make, if not 20 to 50, which is what I would more so recommend. Putting that away into savings, into Roth IRA or whatever you got going on from a retirement account standpoint, and then put it on aggressive for the long term, whether it's just indexing or whatever. But 15K is like a good amount for beginning. I would say take like 3 to 5 of that, probably like 3 of that. Throw it at your own personal development, at least 3 to 5. And I'm not it all should be going towards your personal development, but I'm saying you can get a high dollar return on the other stuff, and you'll get what I'm saying in a second. So take $3,000, $5,000, and go to like some seminars, some like 10x boot camps, some like Cody Kearns got a boot camp that was going on yesterday. There's a lot in Arizona, a lot in California, a lot in Miami. But go to one of the I'm trying to think if there's any East Coast, but go to one of these conferences that all these like people that are really have it made are throwing. Get around those type of people, network with those type of people, learn what they're doing to increase their income, because the highest way to the way to accumulate wealth the best is just to increase the income. Yes, it's about what you keep, it's not just what you make. But if you're making $25K a year and you're keeping all of it versus making $400,000 a year and keeping half of it, the higher income makes the difference. So I would say use a good portion of that, let's say 20 to 50% on the personal development side, because it's not 15K you can make back obviously in a year, like very simply, if not a couple months, depending on how much you're making. The next point would be I'd take like maybe like 20% of that and index that for the long term, especially with everything being down. But just as a accumulation tactic of taking 20% of everything you make, putting that away for the long term in the index fund, and then continue to do this as you make more money. So every time you get like a paycheck or you flip an item or whatever, take 20% of the profit or the whole thing potentially, if not 50 to 100, and put that towards the index fund for the long term, for the next 40 to 60 years, let's call it. So when you retire, 20, like if you look at the compounding interest tables on those, like they speak for themselves. And this is obviously an extremely slow way to get rich if you're talking indexing, but it's a backup. Like there's no excuse to not be putting that 10 to 20% away. At least that covers you in the end, worst case scenario, but the focus should be making more money. So then I would take the other, let's say 10K, 8K, 10 to 12K, and invest in a skill that you have and you know about. Because if you know nothing about stocks and you buy a bunch of stocks because they have a 26% yield on like a closed-end fund, but it goes down 20% annually, you're not like, if you don't know anything about it, or if you try trading but you don't know anything about trading, I would make a list of things that you know about, whether it might be hypebeast stuff that you can flip shoes for 200 to 1,000, or like you might know all about cars or how to fix cars or start a business with it. I think the investment side, because it's only like 10 grand, 15 grand, aside from investing in yourself, the best bet might just be to start a business. Aside from flipping stuff, because 10K gives you a little bit of liquid cash to flip stuff with. If you could start a business with that 10, that gives you a lot of leeway. You could start 10 businesses with $1,000 buy-in on every single one. And if one of them does well, it pays for all the other ones. So you could fail 10 times, don't have the fear of failure there. And then as long as one does well, so you're diversifying your risk, I guess. It's only 10K, so it's not really risky at all. But like with the lawn care stuff, 120 times, say you did 2K for the summer-ish, but only working on those certain days. If you could scale that while you're at college, let's say 120 every Saturday times 20 weeks in the summer maybe. So let's say 2K. If you could scale that though, because you were only working 2 hours, if you could pay somebody $10 an hour, $20 a Sunday, you would only be out cash outlay of what, $200. So you net the 18 on that. Pay like a sibling, pay somebody next door, the little kid that's 10 years old or whatever. But you don't have to be there necessarily to scale it. You could take the payment from people in form of credit card or whatever, so you don't even have to be in the same country as them. But the people that do the work leave an invoice in an envelope that you print and send out, so they don't know how much you're making. You control all the aspects of it. They don't need to know how much you're making when they're working for you, and how much you're making when they're working for you. But then you control all the aspects of it. You're still making money, and you completely leverage having an employee on that side. So I wouldn't quit the lawn care thing just because you're in school. But that's my take. If you have like specific stuff, like if you're looking like for something specifically to do with that like exact dollar amount, like where to put it, we could probably talk more personally about different options, like about specific little things. But those would be more general. If you'd like any of those ideas, or if you have any questions about those ideas, send me another message and I'll get an answer for you. As always, like I said in the beginning of the video, thanks for watching, everyone. And if you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me. If you got value out of this video, leave a thumbs up because it helps the Instagram algorithm. It takes 2 seconds. You scroll your mouse over, you click like, you click subscribe, whatever. It helps the algorithm for me. If you got value out of this, I want to get in front of more people so that they can get the same value. So that's my charge for watching the video today. If you watch the video to this point, the cost of this video is sending a like, so that helps the algorithm. Yes, that's fair. I'm not charging you to watch this. I'm doing this for free. I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart. Until next time, I'll see everyone in the next video.